I'm Allendale's Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. Latest check of surface analysis across the United States shows we've got the one cluster of scattered showers and thunderstorms working through the central plains. We're seeing some of it stretch just a little bit into the extreme western part of the Corn Belt, as we kind of mentioned in our online write-up this morning. This is anticipated, but we don't expect it making a big run into the western Corn Belt. Things are going to kind of dissipate and die off here over the course of the next 24 to 36 hours. The best moisture still looks to be in eastern parts of the plains, and then just getting kind of whittled away to nothing in the western Corn Belt. That being said, currently we're seeing decent showers, thunderstorms from southeastern Nebraska, southwestern Minnesota, all the way down through the Missouri Valley in eastern Nebraska and western Iowa. And then we still have a nice little cluster of showers and storms all the way back into central Kansas. All of this happening on the backside of high pressure that's moving eastward at a fairly decent clip. I think we're going to be seeing a secondary high try and come in here as we go through the second half of this week. So this week will continue to be dominated by high pressure overall. Latest model imagery into us right now doesn't show much of this changing. The only thing that I'm seeing changing on the latest run might be a slight eastward expansion of the moisture over Iowa. However, it's very, very light at this point, and so I think it has a good chance of just falling apart and not happening either. But I guess, as we wake up tomorrow morning, if we see a few showers lingering or expanding into eastern parts of Iowa, I guess I wouldn't be surprised at this point as high pressure settles off and moves over Maine. So it's going to be a far cry from the Corn Belt. Now, do we look for this to continue? Do we see more moisture coming in? No. By about noon tomorrow, everything's going to be fairly spaced out, just not seeing much action. And by tomorrow evening, everything is pretty much done. We'll see drier weather hold as we have a ridge building over the middle of the country. That'll start to root out a little bit of the cool high pressure that's off to the east, but what we're going to be seeing, I think, is a secondary high try and form as that ridge expands, and that'll park itself over the Corn Belt probably right on through Friday into Saturday at this point. So I'm not calling for any increase in precipitation chances here short term. As a matter of fact, the next front to impact the Corn Belt, or the plains for that matter, happens as we go from late Tuesday into Wednesday of next week. The front on the latest model run's not quite as impressive, but you know what? It's still going to be there. We're looking, I think, for 0.5 to 1.5 inch rainfall totals. Maybe we'll see a few 2-inch totals, depending on how the front wants to move through. But it continues to me to look to be like a 2 to 3 day event. Relatively slow moving, but once it moves through, it's done. If you recall, yesterday models at mid-session were trying to make the moisture linger. This may be something that we see happening on the 12Z run of the GFS versus the 0Z. These discrepancies are part of the reason why I really like the way the European is looking at things. And generally speaking, right now, we are not seeing any major issues developing on the European. As a matter of fact, the European shows the good front coming through as we go through the middle of next week. And then after that, honestly, we're pretty much done with it, getting some cooler air to dive in behind. And that's the other part of the equation that's really interesting to look at between different models. The American model tries to bring in very cold air as you get done with next week and go into the week following, so the start of the extended forecast period. European says nothing doing, honestly. And so we're just not going to be seeing, I think, much super cold air coming in. One thing that we are going to have to watch, I think, as we go on through the end of next week will be what happens in the tropics. Right now, the tropics are very, very unimpressive, very boring. But if we get any kind of influx of tropical moisture into the deep south, especially if it can come in near a trough ridge changeover, which that's what we're going to be seeing here over the next couple of weeks, vacillating back and forth between deep upper level troughs and big upper level ridges. We're kind of going through the time of year where we start to see this amplification happen pretty much at will. If we inject any kind of surface moisture, tropical moisture underneath that, it could make life really, really interesting. But for right now, you know what? This forecast really looks to me like it's one that promotes decent dry down definitely through the rest of this week. And even next week, if those rains only come in the 0.5 to 1 inch range, which is very possible, and if we only see coverage 70, 80%, or less, you know what, the European says even less for a large part of the Corn Belt. If we see that, we're looking at a scenario here where dry down will continue to happen. We'll get this crop to move toward maturity. We don't have any significant major cold air coming. We're probably going to be setting up pretty good as we go forward. And that's what we have in your midday forecast update. We'll take another look at it again in the morning. Until then, have a great day. And if you have any questions, give us a call at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.